We got Twitch and Facebook and Kick and YouTube. We're live. All right. We are kicking things off today with just a little AMA. Ask me anything. This is Church Chats, as I like to call it, where I sit down on Wednesdays and have a cup of coffee and check in about life, faith, what it's like being a pastor or a Christian in the world with hopefully not a lot of technical difficulties. Just hanging out today a little bit. If things are going a bit slow, then we'll check out another Bible Project video, since that is currently what we're doing for our Through the Bible series, is the book of Exodus, and I've been taking a course from the Bible Project on it to kind of freshen up a little bit and do a little deep dive, figure out what I want to distill for those videos. Seems like the Wi-Fi is pretty strong at this time, knock on wood. But I've been trying to figure that out as well. We did a complicated stream on Sunday, so it was nice to kind of have that figured out a little bit. But this is probably my biggest hot take, but it was an oatmeal raisin cookie, and it's my favorite. The worst part about oatmeal raisin, honestly, is that it's no one else's favorite, and so no one eats the oatmeal raisin cookies, and so I end up eating too many oatmeal raisin cookies. We'll let some folks filter in here and just see where things are going. I usually get a notification from Discord, but I did not today, which is odd. Because I'm early. I am 20 minutes early to my own stream. That makes sense. You know, that checks out. It's been a disorienting week. I didn't get the notification because it hasn't been sent yet. Because we are not supposed to be live right now. But we're a little early. So we're going to roll with it and see how it's going. I'm very excited. I'm having a good day. Just had a couple of good meetings. Got some clarity on some stuff. And got some compliments from my daughter's preschool teacher about just how we're doing as parents, and so that was very encouraging. And she's ready to start potty training. She quite literally stared down her preschool teacher and was like, I'm gonna go on the potty. And she did. So we shouldn't be talking about that, because bathroom talk is not good for the search engine. But that's what's going on right now. I'm just being frank about it. But if you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask, anything you want to talk about life, faith, Christianity, what it's like being a pastor. I'm local here in Fremont, California. And, you know, life is good today. I've had some mental health struggles over the last few years, but really took my mental health more seriously than normal this year. And so now that things are kind of getting dark earlier and things like that. I don't feel the seasonal affective disorder kind of coming on as much. That's good. Life is good. You might see on some of our socials some new graphics updated. I'm really excited about that. I think I showed those off a couple streams ago, but it's that drop pin about our church being present in our community and encouraging you to be present in your communities. You don't have to go overseas to share the gospel. You can do it in your own backyard where you live and work and play. So, it's exciting stuff. Still very hot. Oh man. But I'm going to make sure that I have my headphones plugged into the right port before we start watching video here. But I'm excited to continue this Exodus series because I read through that just in my personal reading. And so some of it's kind of review, some of it's more deep dive. And currently I'm on the book of Leviticus, so I'm a little bit ahead on my personal reading for where we are in the through the Bible course. And then this year we're actually going to be, or this next year, 2026, we'll be releasing some courses on how to read the Bible. And it's very exciting stuff. We don't do as much of a deep dive as the Bible Project, but we kind of make it more accessible. A nice middle stepping ground. So, all right, we got our bot here. And wow, the chat is huge on my screen. How do I need to fix that real quick. It would not be a stream if we didn't get a bot. Let's zoom out, and zoom out once more. All right, that's better. And blocked. All right, now with that taken care of, let's go ahead and jump in. This is the Bible Project, and they are awesome. There's a guest speaker actually for this one, Dr. Carmen Ives, and she knows her stuff. She is very knowledgeable about the book of Exodus, so let's go ahead and jump in. That's good. The audio is not coming through, so I'm reacting to nothing right now. Let's try this again.
Questions or comments?
This command and what happens to Aaron's sons.
Hey, there we go.
Yes.
Because if they're bearing the name and
Yes.
they're doing sacrifices wrong, they're giving this false impression of Yahweh.
Yes.
And then,
Yes,
you know,
there's an immediate, swift reaction. They fall dead. And you're talking about
Cool.
the early verses of Leviticus chapter 10, right after, like immediately after the ordination of Aaron and his sons. The first day of sacrifices is such a great moment because at the end of chapter 9, Aaron comes out and he lifts his hands and he blesses the people, which would be the moment in which he puts God's name on them. The very next thing is his sons are like, this is cool. Kind of like being a priest. Hey, check it out. I have an idea. Let's do this. And they like start to innovate and they bring the wrong kind of incense or fire into the tabernacle. And God's like, nope. Zap. There are huge consequences for that. Now, of course, if we want to draw the connection with the New Testament and ask, well, doesn't Jesus pay for our sins? So then doesn't that kind of erase this sense of weighty responsibility for us to represent God?
We have coming on kick.
Yes, we rest.
The impregnator says, hello, Pastor. Does Jesus approve of my name? I think it depends. Are you impregnating and dipping, or are you gonna see that pregnancy through and help out? That is a funny name, though. How are you doing? We're just having a chill stream today. Like it says, ask me anything. Life, faith, Christianity, or off topic. It's totally fine too. I'm an open book. We're just kind of watching this video to kill time because we're doing a series on the book of Exodus. But totally willing to go on any rabbit trail. But yeah, let me know. Are you like a modern type of pastor? What does that mean? That's my question. What does a modern type of pastor mean? I am live streaming, so I feel like that makes me a little bit modern. I don't know. Modern can mean a lot of things. I'll need more clarification on that one. I guess it makes me modern if I laugh at something like the impregnator as a username. That is fair. Come on, impregnator, what do you got? Do you play religious video games? If so, can you give me recommendations? I've played a couple. I had a channel that I was testing out some stuff on that, like, before I hop on our main church channel, I'll kind of see how it does, see if I like the way it kind of flows. I played a Bible video game And it was not great. It was like trying to have you play through as different characters from the Bible. So you were like Adam and Eve in the garden, collecting apples was one of the levels. There was a level that was particularly infuriating where you were Lot and his family trying to escape from I just blanked on the name of the city that Lot moved to. Man, my brain is not totally here. Sodom. That's the name of the city. But then there was ones that were like a little strange, where I think you play as Noah trying to get all the animals on the ark, but Noah has like a flaming staff attack to fight something. I forget. And then there's one that I think is supposed to come out. It's like in production. Yeah, called Gate Zero. Let me open up on Steam. This is the game that I played. Yeah, I know I'm not signed in. That's fine. This is Adventures of the Old Testament, the Bible video game. I'll see if I can show you. It did not look this good when I played it. It was very pixelated. Oh, there's Noah. It must be like a still in development sort of thing. That's the level with Lot. That was insane because it's like RNG if you're gonna get hit by it or not. The little markers weren't showing that. But none of this was in it. That was in it. This was not. This was supposed to be Jesus. That was in it. Nothing about David was in it. It makes it look much cooler than it actually was, to be honest.
Experience a new game.
Oh, thanks. I don't need to watch another video. But then there was another one that let me pull it up real quick. This is the one that was in production the last time that I saw it. This is Gate Zero. This one looked more interesting, but like I said, haven't been able to play it. Oh, apparently you can wishlist it on Steam. Let's go ahead and see what's going on there. This is the teaser for Gate Zero.
The land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea, Galilee of the Gentiles.
And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor.
This looks kind of interesting.
Don't be a fool.
It's kind of like a Bible Skyrim.
The people
which I
who
feel like
sat
is
in
fun to
darkness
play.
That is blasphemy.
have
Like a moment
seen
frozen in
a
time.
great light.
Mac, you have to find a way.
There is no way. You think you're fighting Rome? You have no idea what you are up against.
Whoa! This is a crazy turn.
This is not the revolution I expected.
Interesting. Ooh. Coming soon. That's vague. Interesting, though. I will say. I am vaguely intrigued by that. I'm looking for a game about missionaries where you knock on people's doors and stuff with challenges, like how many doors you knocked on per day with rewards. I am a Christian pastor, non-denominational. You might be confusing us with Mormons or the Latter-day Saints, because they're the knocking on door type of people who call themselves Christians. I don't know if I would call them Christians, because they kind of add a whole nother book that kind of contradicts some of this stuff, pretty important stuff that the Bible says. I mean, yeah, it is religious though. Yeah, it's kind of like
The land of Zebulun.
kind of lumping all religions together, which, I mean, is its own different type of religion, but it's I don't know. It's kind of like saying any one people from a continent, all people from that continent are the same people with no diversity. And so, like, there's a lot of religious diversity in the world. Doesn't mean we believe the same stuff necessarily. So, from denomination to denomination in Christianity, there's, like, really minor details that I feel like aren't worth, like, splitting hairs over. But, yeah, Christians and Mormons, that's a little bit more than splitting hairs. They spread the word of God. They're missionaries. Yeah, the way that they go about it is interesting, and the practices of Mormonism are a little suspicious. It's very isolating. It's very not counterculture, because Christianity is a little bit counterculture, but very anti-culture. Like, let's remove ourselves from the culture completely, which is not what Jesus did. He was like, I'm not going to act in according to the culture, but I'm going to be present in the culture, if that makes sense. And so that's kind of like the major difference, without going into all of like the theological things about the Book of Mormon and all of that, golden tablets from heaven. That gets a little more complicated, a little more distinct. It's kind of like saying, well, I play basketball and I play football. They're both sports and they both have sports balls, and you earn points in both of them, but like they're not really working towards the same thing. I don't know. It's definitely a tricky thing, depending on who you ask. Because I think most Christian denominations would not acknowledge Latter-day Saints as a branch of Christianity, but Latter-day Saints definitely would claim themselves as a branch of Christianity. It just gets a little complicated when you add a religious text like Old Testament, New Testament, bonus additional testament that corrects things from the first two, rather than adding on like Old Testament, New Testament does, or even like denominations that add like the Apocrypha, which are like books that happen in between the Old and New Testament that are left out for various reasons. They maybe couldn't be verified, or there's some breaks in the chain. Authorship is oftentimes a big one, or content, whether it kind of synergizes with the rest. There's a lot that's kind of up in the air about the apocryphal books, but still, like, I think most Christians could nod at Catholicism and be like, okay, you guys are all right. Like, you guys got your stained glass windows and your hymns, and it's a little weird maybe for us coming from a non-denominational standpoint of like, this feels a little, maybe like I'm a little out of place, but for the most part, I think when it comes to the important stuff, there's more synergy definitely between Christianity and Catholicism rather than Christianity and Mormonism. That gets a little weird. Good questions though, but yeah, it's always interesting, always a little weird to have conversations with people who are from the Latter-day Saints, because it's like it's not. I don't want to be like, hey, you're doing it wrong, but it's like you're definitely twisting some stuff that we believe to be true, and that's not totally cool. I don't know how to say your new username on Twitch. I'm gonna try. Aina Tay. Life is too short to waste it on religion. Yeah, you know what? Fair. Aina, thank you. Life is too short to waste it on religion, Aina says. Yeah, I get it. That's fair. Organized religion is... I have my own gripes with it. Even as a pastor, it's something that I've developed over years and still decided to become a pastor. And so I get... a little bit of where you're coming from. I'm not a fan of organized religion in the way that we see it in America. I think it is more of a power structure and is often misleading and creates opportunity for abuse. And so, like, there's a lot of things that I don't like about religious structures as a whole. And so that's totally fair, honestly. And I can see why some people are like, I'm Christian, but I'm not religious, that sort of thing. But I'd be interested to hear more of where you're coming from with that. Impregnator says, what do you think of Jewish people? It's tricky because Christianity has its roots in Judaism, but they kind of like cut things off at the Old Testament, and they don't really they see Jesus kind of as a cool guy. What does my comment gets deleted? LOL. No, it's right there. It's on the stream. You can see it. I can see it. I'm addressing it right now. Yeah. Why? Yeah. No, I can see your comment. Yeah, it's tricky. I personally don't know a lot of Jewish people living in the Bay Area. It's not like a predominant people group. We do have a lot of folks in this area who are Muslim, and so I've definitely talked to more people who are Muslim or Hindu. Yeah, Jewish people, I feel like, without, like, in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way, in a very not serious sort of way, I'm like, come on, man, you got half of it. You got the Old Testament. Like, you're so close. Just add in a little bit of Jesus, and you guys will be good. But I think it's tricky, and I get it. I get it why adding in a New Testament that kind of changes the perspective on a lot of things can feel very jarring and unsafe. But really, like, honestly, I applaud Jewish rabbis because they really know their stuff. Like, I would not want to go like head to head in a Bible reciting or theological contest or whatever with a Jewish rabbi, because I would totally get smoked. Yuki Chan on Twitch says, I was just listening to the Bible. Hey, awesome. What were you listening to? I'd be interested to know, just out of my own curiosity. But something weird is happening with the the visual settings on Restream. John chapter 1. That's good. Hey, we got another bot. Let's go ahead and block that bot. John chapter 1. Cool. What kind of stuff did you hear in John chapter 1? While I fix what's going on here on OPS. I think I just got it because I was zoomed in and then zoomed out in a different way. Ah, there we go. Now I can see. I don't need my old man glasses just yet. Yeah, what did you get from John chapter 1? That's, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's a fun one. That's a lot to unpack with that one. I completely forgot I have 3 disabilities: ADHD, autism, and cerebral palsy. I'm very sorry to hear that. That is unfortunate, but yeah, John chapter 1 is a very good passage, and it's one that needs a little bit of unpacking, because saying in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's like, it sounds very churchy, very Christianese, but it's we can kind of dismiss it sometimes. It's just like, oh yeah, it sounds really Jesus-y. But actually it's really cool because it's unpacking a cultural thing of the logos is the Greek word that's used for the Word of God, and there's some like cultural implications of like God speaks into creation poetically in Genesis, and with words come power and authority, and so they actually refer to Jesus as the Logos or the Word. And so they're saying, actually, in the beginning, there was Jesus, and Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God, and is God. And so it's not just past tense, but they are kind of recounting from a poetic standpoint the identity of Jesus as God. Why they don't just come out and say it is also interesting, because they're still living under Roman occupation, and it would not be good to go around saying that there is a God, there is a king, in that God is in human form, when Rome is like, no, we have the king, and our king is the true king. And so it would definitely get a lot of people killed. And so it's best in those situations to speak in a little bit of code. And so that's why there's often some things that need a little more unpacking about that. John is also written probably like 50 years after the other Gospels. And so you have to wonder what was left out of Matthew, Mark, and Luke that John needed to add. And so Matthew, Mark, and Luke are written to the Romans, and to the Greeks, and to the Jewish people. Not in that order. Matthew was to the Jewish people, and Mark was to the Romans, and Luke was to the Greeks. And they are informing about who Jesus was and what he did. And John is really cool because he comes in and he is kind of giving the perspective of, yeah, that's what Jesus did, but here's why he did it. And so going all the way back to creation, and then of course we get like the most Christian Bible passage that like children learn in Sunday school, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but will have eternal life. And so, John is writing from a very poetic standpoint. Yuki says, John 2:3, NIV, when the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." What does that mean? It means they had no more wine. I believe Jesus is at a wedding in that story, and he's there with his mother, and that is the first miracle that Jesus does in his public ministry. He turns water into wine, and it would have been weddings are a huge deal in ancient Jewish culture, and so there's a lot of pressure on whoever's hosting the party to throw a good party, and it's multiple days, these parties. And so typically what would happen is they would serve some really good wine, some really good food, there'd be lots of partying, lots of dancing, lots of just joy and laughter. It's a wonderful event. But like I said, there's kind of a social pressure on whoever's hosting the party. And so what would typically happen is they would bring out all of the best food and the best wine first, so that way when everyone was feeling a little bit tipsy in those later days, later nights, they wouldn't notice that the quality was sort of declining in the food and the drink. And actually what happens is Jesus' mother says there's no more wine, and that's something that would bring a lot of shame to the host, because it's like you couldn't afford it, you didn't plan, or you just don't care about your guests, whatever the implication would be. It wouldn't be good. And so Jesus' mother is like, hey, go do a miracle, which also implies that Jesus has done something like this before, or at least Mary knows that Jesus could do something like this. And so he goes and he gets essentially dirty bath water and turns it into wine, which the employees, I think it probably says servants, but the servants or employees or the people who are working at the event for one reason or another, they bring the host some wine, and the host is like, wow, this is the best wine. Or not the host, but probably whoever is the one who is critiquing the host, who is hosting not the event, but is like in charge of like the wedding party or whatever it would be. They're like, wow, you actually saved the best wine, so you genuinely really care about these people. Yeah, that's that's that story. I wonder if Jesus ever got drunk. There's a lot of interesting perspectives about drinking in Christianity. I wonder if Jesus ever got drunk. I don't know. Short answer, right? Long answer, because this is a live stream. There's some thought about what the alcohol content would have been in ancient times. It probably would have been lower than it is today, as we've refined the alcohol making, brewing process, fermentation process. I'm not knowledgeable enough about alcohol to speak to it very much. Not modern alcohol, not ancient alcohol. But there is an interesting theory that I've heard, that because Jesus grew up in kind of a more peasant class, that anything that's translated as wine in the Bible, at least pertaining to Jesus, could have actually been closer to beer, because they had access to more grains and things that make beer, versus expensive grapes and fruits and things that go towards making wine. And so I thought that was interesting. It would also explain the lower alcohol content potentially. So definitely some interesting takes on that. I'm not totally sure, but I would imagine because Jesus kind of dials up the intensity on some of the Old Testament stuff, he might say, like, if you have any temptation of getting drunk, don't drink at all. Based off of the Sermon on the Mount and what he says about greed, envy, lust, etc. And so poetically, he says that if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. And so I think Jesus might have some words to say about people who get excessively drunk. I'm not saying like tipsy, but like to the point where you are making bad decisions and or blacking out. I think he probably would not approve. So at least for me, drinking in moderation is fine. I wouldn't order a drink if there's someone in my group that has any sort of struggle with alcohol. I want to be respectful of that. But I've had a drink every so often, just casually. If my wife and I go out, then maybe, if I'm not driving. But or if we're going to be somewhere for a while, you know. My question is, Yuki again, why God took Jesus back to him when he died on the cross, then made him rise from the dead on Easter. I'm confused why God did all this to his son. Very good question. Okay, let's break it down. Why God took Jesus back to him when he died? Well, he died. And so, spiritually, yeah, potentially reunited with God. Poetically, it's said that he went down and busted open the gates of hell, or knocked down the gates of hell, or whatever the phrasing is, right? When he died on the cross and then made him rise from the dead on Easter. That one is a little more significant because it displays, number one, that Jesus is God, and number two, God's power over death. And so Jesus, in his ministry, claims to have power over sin and is able to forgive sins. And that was one of the reasons he was crucified. And so one of the discussions that he has is it more difficult to say your sins are forgiven, or to say there was a paralyzed man, to say to this man to get up and walk? And he does both. And so Jesus says throughout his ministry, he forgives sins. And then to also show that he has the power to do so, he does something even more difficult, which is raise people and himself from the dead. And so it's kind of a display that says Jesus is God, and this God has power over sin and death, because it was there's lots of different gods culturally in that time, in surrounding cultures. So, but God, not gods that bring people back from the dead, right? And so kind of showing that the Judeo-Christian God is different, is more powerful. Why did God do all this to his son? Well, I mean, it goes back to John 3:16 is the short answer, is so that whoever believes in him will not perish but have eternal life, right? Jesus displays power over sin and death, which means that when he says our sins are forgiven, we can take that seriously. And when we die, it's not the end. And that brings me a lot of comfort. I lost a close friend of mine in a tragic, I want to say accident, but someone did it intentionally. He was taken before his time. And And it brings me comfort to know that the God that we both believe in does not have death at the end of the sentence, right? There's a new sentence, and that sentence is full of life and hope and love, and we can have hope that we'll see the people that we love again. Jesus gives us that hope by dying on the cross. Sorry, my puppy was barking. You're so good. It's okay. Yeah. Long story short, to recap, Jesus dies so that we can live, to show that he's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk. He says he forgives sins. He says that he can bring people back to life. He brings people back to life. He brings himself back to life because he is God. And it's less of God doing this to his son and more of Jesus doing this for us. And it gets a little confusing thinking of God and Jesus as separate people when they're the same person. It's the doctrine of the Trinity is a little wonky with that, where it's like Jesus is God but is talking to God, and it's it's a little wild, but yeah, it's something voluntarily done. Jesus is God giving up his godness in order to live among us and display for us what it is that the way that we should be living in order to live a good and righteous and godly life. And so and then he sets us free from all of the human things that distract us from doing that, for lack of a more nuanced term. It's obviously much deeper than just distractions, but the things that hinder us from doing that, from godly living. So I hope that answers your question. It's a little bit tricky to unpack, but definitely good stuff. And please go back and watch any parts that you missed, because I tried to break down your question as best as possible. Also, I'm trying my puppy to my service dog. Oh, okay. So you have a service dog, but you're getting the puppy and the dog used to each other? Am I reading that correctly? My wife and I had a dog for a little while. He was a very good boy. He's still alive. He just lives with my mother-in-law now. And now he's very fat and happy because he gets to eat food from the table. But man, yeah, I didn't have a ton of pets growing up, and this was my first time like having a dog. And he I wasn't used to like getting jumped on. I found out that I was like allergic to dog dander because my allergies were just out of control, like taking allergy medicine every day. And man, if he wasn't such a good boy, that would have been rough. But it was nice. It got me to get outdoors, to go on walks. That was nice. I'm sure the service dog also has a lot of additional necessary benefits for you. But having a dog definitely brought some joy to our life, and it was a tough decision to say like, hey, we have a dog and a baby now, and between that and just life stress, this is too much on our plates, and we want our dog to live somewhere that has like a nice backyard and he can run around and eat table scraps, like and so it kind of worked out well for him to go live with my wife's mom. So hopefully things are going well with your puppy, new puppy. Dogs are fun. Hey, feel free to check out our Discord. I forgot to mention that. It's right over here. You can scan the QR code, or there should be a link tree on all the streaming platforms that we're currently on, where you can stay in the loop on what is going on. Just the things that we're putting out on the internet. I work really hard to provide resources to kind of not only make myself accessible online like this, but to kind of unpack some of these biblical topics, not just by myself, but with other pastors as well. So I wanted to actually just check on the Discord, because I can't remember what exactly I put as the time for this. Okay, an hour. And I started half an hour early. So we'll see. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I am going to, in the meantime, jump back to this Bible Project course. But feel free.
In Jesus' grace, but he models for us how to properly represent God. And I think because the law is not the means of salvation, it's a means of mission, it's never over. Jesus doesn't do away with the mission, he invites us into it. And so Jesus can as he's teaching his disciples how to pray, he says, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. May your name be hallowed or sanctified or consecrated. And I don't know if you've ever stopped to ask yourself, like, why would God's name need to be made holy? Isn't it already holy? We just saw in Ezekiel what happened to God's name. It was profaned by the misbehavior of God's covenant people.
That's good.
So by
That's
praying, hallowed be your name, I think Jesus is committing himself to living faithfully. He's saying, I get how this works, and I want your name to be holy, so help me to live a life that honors you, so that your reputation is enhanced.
That's good.
So that you're getting your proper worship, and I don't distract from that.
That's good.
So that's a tall order, a high calling. In the next session, we're going to talk about resting in God's provision. We'll talk about the Sabbath command, but this has already given us lots to chew on.
Highly recommend the Bible Project. I'm using this as a study tool for the videos that I'm putting out. I probably won't go as deep as they do on some things to make it a little more accessible, kind of like a middle ground between I read my Bible and went to church on Sunday to then, hey, we're diving into the Hebrew and the Greek and the culture surrounding. But kind of like a middle ground between the two of like, let's make this accessible and let's take you some steps deeper.
All right, so we have had a first look at the command to have no other gods, the command not to misrepresent Yahweh. Now we're going to talk about the Sabbath command. And again, I would like to hear.
I was playing my time at Sandrock. It's mentioned Sunday school is boring. Is that bad? My time at Sandrock. Is that a song? Is that a show? My time at Sandrock. It's a video game. Life sim. Building, farming, RPG. And it's mentioned Sunday school is boring. Is that bad? Does it say that in the game? Because honestly, like, I kind of agree. And that might be bad, but not like God's not gonna like that bad, right? I think God would like it if Sunday school were more engaging. I like to think that our Sunday school is pretty good. It's really tough with young kids that don't quite get it, and can't like really comprehend what we're saying about Jesus, but they do their best. But then like we talk about like actual like how to apply your faith to your life sort of stuff in our Sunday school here at Fremont.Church. And so I think that's pretty cool. I would have liked that growing up. I don't know, I wasn't excited about Sunday school as a kid. And then when I was in 5th grade, we had this thing called Club 56. It was for 5th and 6th graders, before you kind of joined like the junior high school group. And that was a lot of fun. That was really engaging. We watched fun videos. We kind of like were able to be honest and kept it real and talked about things that were important to us. And then the guy who was leading that, I think, moved away. And and then they had a series of people take over, and it went back to being really boring. And so I was actually a kid who like ditched Sunday school. Like I would be checked in by my parents, and then I would kind of just like run off and do whatever. Like I would sneak out, say I'm going to the bathroom or something, and then just like mess around, right? Yeah, and then I wasn't really into it in junior high school. I actually went back and was teaching Sunday school for a little while, because I wanted to help, and I would rather serve as a volunteer than sit through Sunday school. But then, life took several turns and winds and loops before coming back to being a pastor. But I hated it because when you get to high school age, you move to the other side of church. It was hard. Yeah, that's a bummer. Something that we do here is we actually have our middle school and high school students join our Sunday church gathering. And so they're there for worship and for the teaching, and we do a really hard job to make sure that we are being accessible to younger generations and not only speaking to older generations. And so that's really cool. I really like that, because some churches would just say, go over there and do your own thing, which is kind of how I grew up in the church. And then other churches might say, like, yeah, we're not going to do something different for you. You can come to grown-up church, but we're not going to make things easy for you. And so it was kind of like that, where I think there really wasn't anything for me at that age except for sitting in church, and I was like, well, I don't want to do that. And so even as like a young adult, I was like, I don't really want to sit in church. And so that's actually how I kind of got more on my journey to becoming a pastor, and took those steps, is because I was like, well, I don't really want to do the status quo thing. Let me serve, and then let me get more involved, and then let me help make decisions, and then oops, I'm a pastor. Is basically how it went. That's cool. I wish all churches did that. Yeah, that would be awesome. But churches do different things in different ways, and what works for one church might not work for another church. But I think there's definitely some like best practices that churches can learn from each other. I wish that churches would treat teenagers more like young adults than they do older children, if that makes sense. Because I feel like there's a maturity level and an understanding and some really good questions. And so being a part of youth ministry for many years as a leader and teacher really showed me that, like, yeah, there's like mature conversations being had here about who Jesus was and who God is and things like that. So I think that could be good. But typically, I would lean like that diversity is good in the church, and different practices are good to reach different people. But because you know what one church needs might not be what every church needs, but just what some churches need, if that makes sense. Your puppy is next to you listening. Hello, puppy. I'm glad you are listening. I do not have a puppy next to me listening. What's your puppy's name? And what, if you know it, what's the breed of the puppy? We had, it was some sort of mix, our dog. His name was Goober. And he definitely lived up to his name. He was a silly, fun dog. And now he's in a better place, which is my mother-in-law's house. We need service dogs more accepted to church. Yeah. No. I don't think I've ever encountered that situation, having a service dog in church. But I can say with like 90% certainty, because we've had just dogs on our campus, like that would be totally accepted here. And I would be really shocked if there was a church that frowned on that. Leo is a good name for a dog. I like Leo. Leo was actually the name of a hamster that I had as a kid. It was short for Leonidas. I don't know where that came from, but yeah. Leo the puppy. Well, I'm glad that Leo is doing well. I hope that Leo gets along with your service dog, who is also probably a good dog, I would imagine. If they go through all of that service dog training, then you kind of have to be a good dog, right? Let's go ahead and let's see. We'll check out this Bible Project video for a little longer.
What your experience has been with this command in the past. I think for many Christians, this is the one that no longer applies. Like this one isn't repeated in the New Testament, so we don't have to do this one anymore. Like, what have you heard? What's been your experience with this in your church community or your family growing up?
Sabbath is definitely mentioned in the New Testament.
Sabbath, no Sabbath.
Maybe not reiterated as a command, but...
Well, for me, I think growing up, it was taught that the Sabbath was Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was yeah.
And in your family or in your context, what did you not do on Sundays that you could do on other days? Like, what was the difference?
Honestly, we just went to church.
You just went to church. All right. So there were no, like, off limits.
Nope, there's no off limits.
The khaki pants come out.
Yeah.
The khaki pants come out.
We watched football.
What else?
I think something I've heard more recently is sort of a build your own Sabbath, like take the idea of rest and then see where it fits in to your day. Like maybe carve out an hour a day rather than one whole day, and that can be your rest.
Yeah.
I've heard that too. It doesn't work.
So that's not an anti-Sabbath. That's sort of like a do-it-yourself Sabbath. Yeah. How about the rest of you?
I feel like it's come quite to the front of like Christian pop culture. Like a lot of books are being written about it, and
it's back in vogue.
Yeah, people are like, "What are you doing for your Sabbath?" Or I think even like secularly, businesses and organizations are allowing their workers to take Sabbath.
Chihuahua Shih Tzu mix is Leo's breed. Now he's biting me, and I can't let him do that. My cerebral palsy will hurt. I'm so sorry. That's really unfortunate. I can't understand what you must be going through. I'm sorry. It must be really difficult.
Sabbaticals, if they've been with the company for a long period of time. It may not be a full year off, but extended periods of time. So it's coming back into fashion a bit.
Why do you think that is?
Me? Or
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
Yeah, they're probably realizing that people need rest. The whole burnout phase is real.
Yeah.
And taking care of your workers is probably a good thing to do.
Yeah. It actually makes sense from a business standpoint. I mean, take morality out of it. If you push a horse all day, every day, he's going to drop dead sooner than if you give him rest.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you're not thinking of it as like a covenantal thing, rest just makes sense.
Yeah, it's starting to become a trend of like 4-day work weeks, or even like unlimited PTO. Like actually shows that like productivity increases in those companies.
And it's so funny because I've had a lot of students be like, "Oh, the Sabbath, we don't do that anymore, right? Like that's legalistic. That's what the Jews do when they're being legalistic." It's like, well, it's on the top 10. It's not like tucked away in an.
I think the Sabbath should be a way to still work from home, but also not affect everyone who doesn't work on the Sabbath. Not affect everyone who does. Okay. I see what you're saying. Like there's still an option to work if you want it. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think the principle of the Sabbath is mandatory rest, because otherwise we will not rest. Like, we need to feel productive, we need to feel active, we need to be doing something, we need to move the ball forward, we need to make progress towards our goals. And as someone who for a long time didn't take a Sabbath, that gets really exhausting. Especially working in the church world, you're not exactly working on everyone else's schedule. And so it's not like you have a typical Monday to Friday and then Saturday and Sunday are off. Actually, Sunday's a very important day. And then you're working Monday to Friday to prepare for that, probably doing 1 or 2 small groups throughout the week in the evenings. And then a lot of ministries happen on Saturdays if you're trying to reach the community. And so, like, it sounds great. There was even a season where, for our youth ministry, we did a different small group every night. And I was involved in some respect in all of them, and as a leader. And man, yeah, that was exhausting. And I don't recommend it, because yes, I was very productive. Yes, I got a lot done. But my mental health was really bad. And if I was to stop at that time, then it felt like, well, all of that would just come crashing down because I was exhausted. So it's less about like, oh, I think I'll take a day off here and there, and more about like understanding that we have mental and physical limits, and rest allows us to stop and take care of ourselves and focus on God. And it's something that should be intentionally scheduled and not just like slotted into any given spot. And so, like, I take Fridays off. That's my Sabbath. And I do also work from home on Mondays, because that is more restful for me than going into the office an extra day of the week. But I think teenagers with periods shouldn't go to school. I can't speak to that too much on account of having more testosterone than people who deal with that, which is a roundabout way of saying that I don't have female reproductive organs. But So I don't want to give too much of an opinion on that because I don't know what having a period is like. But yeah, I think there should definitely, at the very least, be more flexibility for teenagers with their period, because that sucks. And hearing my wife describe it, and the ways that she's had to push through to kind of ways that she was pushing through when she was in school and the way she does now with work, it's like, oh yeah, we should offer a little more flexibility during that time of the month for sure.
Obscure chapter of Leviticus anymore that's like ritually related. It's right here on the top 10, and the rest of the top 10 we feel pretty comfortable with. So why would we not want this one? This is the one where God says, take a break. The world does not revolve around you. You're not responsible for keeping it turning. Rest. And you would think that would be such a gift for us, but sometimes we resist it. So
the idea of the Garden of Eden is essentially one big Sabbath. Like, there's still things to be done, but it's not labor. It's not intense. It's not work in the way that we see work.
Let's go ahead and read it. Lauren, would you read off the PowerPoint there?
India just made it easy for women now, but America doesn't care about us. Yeah, America is a very driven culture. Like, your value is very tied to what you accomplish, which is not good. I think other cultures and other countries do a much better job about caring for people, for sure.
Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do...
Why was it called the Garden of Eden? Eden is a Hebrew word that means delight. It is essentially this very full cup, emotionally feeling description of what it would be like to physically walk with God and to have that rest. And so that is what they called it. It is essentially a garden on top of a mountain, and water flows from there and nourishes the earth. It's like essentially the feeling of delight when we are in the presence of God, and then everything with God is pleasant and it's easier and we get to rest, and things are how God created them to be without humans derailing the creation project. So it's that feeling of delight. That's what that Hebrew word Eden means, or Iden, or Eden.
Do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy.
All right, so let's sort of center in on this passage, and we're going to ask a few questions of it. What is the Sabbath for? Why is there Sabbath? Who is the Sabbath for? And then why should we keep the Sabbath? So we'll just take it one step at a time. What is the Sabbath for? They're supposed to remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Remember, holy is something that's set apart. So the Sabbath is supposed to be a day that's different than all the other days. It's different in some way. It should feel differently. You should know that you're in a Sabbath day when you're on the Sabbath day. And it tells them 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh is the Sabbath. On it you shall not do any work. So it's a day for stopping, a day of rest, That's the main thing. If you grew up like Marcus, knowing that Sunday was the Sabbath or something in your context, maybe in your mind the association is we go to church on the Sabbath. But actually this doesn't say anything about worship. It just says stopping. So historically there's probably a long and drawn out explanation for why it shifted from keeping the Sabbath on Saturday, which is what the Israelites did, to keeping it on Sunday, which is what most Christians do, although the Seventh-day Adventists and others still keep Sabbath and even worship on Saturday rather than Sunday. That there's a debate there. The basic reason for the shift to Sunday is that's the day Jesus rose again. So the church began to meet in celebration of that. Whether you worship on Sunday and then rest on Saturday, or whether you make Sunday the day of rest and worship, choose your own adventure. Maybe there's variety in our various church traditions as far as how to do this. But the basic idea is to stop and to make this day different than the other days. So I've already asked you, I've already asked this before, but I'll ask it again.
I think I'm gonna wrap things up there for this stream. There's some interesting stuff going on, but I am running out of steam a little bit. I started half an hour early, and so I went 15 minutes longer technically than I was scheduled to go, but that was my mistake. But some really good conversation about a variety of topics, about different religions, about Sabbath, rest, Jesus, and his perspectives on things. So thank you guys for watching. Check out the Church Online Discord and all the stuff we have going on in our link tree, where we are looking to bring the church to you.